Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to focus now on the finishing of the compact mirror project. La la. But we're going to focus on the sanding down of the mirror side and the top coat. And maybe we're going to do one top coat, maybe we're going to do two. Who knows? So if that sounds like something that interests you and you want to see the completion of my first resin project, then please keep watching. Alright guys, we're going to finish up our sweet little compacts, and here's kind of the supply list that we're going to use. Orbital sander. We have some of the sanding pads, so I have 80, 180, and then 220. Some 400, and some 800. Turkey jerky, because, you know, kills hunger. Resin's beautiful, but it's dangerous. And when you sand it, it's toxic. So, we got this little guy here. I know, get ready. Oh, I'm gonna look so good. Boom. It attaches in the back. Alright, let's go sand some. The sanding is finished. So just a quick recap. We did 80 grit, 180 grit, and 220 grit with the orbital sander. Then I moved on to 400 grit and 800 grits on the regular sandpaper. I realized after I had finished with the 800 that I still didn't like the edge. It was still a little too sharp and it was really difficult for me to get a good sand with the thin regular sandpaper. So I happened to find in the basement, yay, a sanding block. I'm not 100% what grit this is. I would have to guess it's 180, possibly a 220. I sanded it so that I was kind of at almost a 45-degree angle. Like, can I show this basically? And I sanded all the way around the rim there just to soften that edge a little bit so it's not quite so sharp. There are little bitty micro scratches, I guess if you will, from sanding it, But I do feel and mostly hope that putting the top coat's really going to take care of those scratches and make it a nice clear surface again. After I finished sanding the bevel or sanding the edges there, I just went to the sink, washed them all off with water. I didn't want to add soap or anything like that because I was afraid that somehow these little micro scratches would keep a residue in them somehow, and that might affect the curing of the resin that we're going to put on the top coat. So I just did water and towel dried it with the paper towel so as to be kind of still lint free. We're going to tape the edges. I don't want to put the tape all the way to the edge here because then it's going to make another sharp edge. I want this top coat to kind of drip off the side and keep that smooth. But I don't want it to drip all the way down to the other side to leave big blobs of the resin that drips off the edge, and that will kind of ruin this side of the mirror. So my thought is I will just tape in the middle here, right past where the clear ends and the alcohol ink section starts, and that way it gives it plenty of room to drip off, hopefully give a smooth edge, but not cause any issues down here in the finished backside of it. After I tape all of these off, I'm going to mix my artist resin. This is meant to be a top coat or for more shallow pours. And of course a top coat, that's going to be very shallow. So let's get to it. Just finished putting the top coat on. Interesting things have occurred. I've noticed that the resin set up really quick. You saw that I applied heat to it to help reduce the viscosity so the bubbles can more easily kind of vent themselves before I pour them on the project. I did that for maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and I did that on the low setting on the heat gun. But the heat gun was fairly close. And I think that that did something to the resin because it was very thick when I went to apply it to the project. My concern is maybe one of 3 things or possibly all 3 things. One, there's a minimum amount that you can mix for the chemical reaction to occur. And I'm wondering if I did not mix enough. Maybe I applied too much heat and it somehow altered the consistency of the resin. Third issue is when I used the heat gun after I'd already poured and kind of spread the resin around a little bit, because it was so thick to spread, I was like, maybe I need to apply heat again to, of course, get these bubbles. And I did, and it worked. It became thinner. It kind of started dripping off the edges. I was like, yes, this is it. This is all I need. Well, then I had it on high heat at that point when I was popping the bubbles. And I noticed that one of the pieces started to kind of like smoke. That was concerning. I was glad I had my respirator on. And I was just like, okay, what's happening? Did I actually maybe touch my gun to the resin and it's maybe burning off some of it on that little metal, on this little kind of piece right here? Oh, which I can see I did, because I can see there's some black resin right there. I just noticed that when I would heat too close, it changed the surface of the resin. It was almost like it hardened it, like it cured it immediately. I don't know that it's gonna go away, and it's on two of the pieces. I took some close-up footage of the two pieces that happened to. I will say I mixed it for the appropriate amount of time. I was sure to get all the edges and the bottom of the container. Oh, it does say keep your heat gun 6 inches from the project itself. I did not do that. I was all up in there, and I think that might be one of the problems. That being said, I am going to try to be as optimistic as I can, but I did run into some little, hiccups, and we'll just see what happens. We're going to let it cure for 24 hours. I'm just going to think happy thoughts. I hope you think happy thoughts with me. Lessons learned, we'll see. Stay tuned. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Okay, so here we are 24 hours later. It's looking interesting. I took the tape off one already. This was actually the best looking one, and even at that, it's not great. Do you see how it has that smudge? That is not on the outside. It's somehow trapped in there, but it wasn't trapped before I did the top coat. So I'm wondering if when I was handling it after I rinsed off to make sure I got all the sanded resin off of there, I wonder if I didn't put my thumb on it or just kind of grab it, not thinking that the oils from my skin would soak in and cause an issue. I do think that that's what that is. Also, there's a ton of little micro bubbles. I did mix the appropriate amount. However, if you recall, I used the heat gun to try to keep it warm to help. In my mind, I thought it would help release the bubbles more quickly. I think what I ended up doing was causing the resin to set faster. And I think that maybe with the artist resin, it has a shorter pot time than casting resin. I think that I just sped that along because the warmer the situation is, the room that you're in, the faster it's gonna set up. On the other side, the cooler it is, the longer you have to work with it. My room was, I don't know, I'd say it's probably 76 degrees in here-ish. And then I was applying heat to it via the heat gun. And I think that that just was a recipe for disaster. So it's cool, we're learning. I do think that it looks pretty good how it melted down the sides, except for where obviously little places like kind of right there where it didn't fully cover. I should have paid a little more attention, but when I was working with it, the resin was already so thick that it was very hard to get it to go over the edges. I'm gonna do this project again because I'm gonna mix the same amount that I did before, maybe a little bit heavier just to make sure I am definitely over the 2 ounce mark, but I'm not gonna apply any heat and I'm gonna mix extremely slowly to reduce putting more bubbles in there. And I will still use the heat gun on top once I have the layer on and it's gone over the edges, and then I'll apply the heat gun to it and only then. So that was the first one. It's not too terribly noticeable where the resin kind of meets the other layer. It doesn't look so bad except for where I didn't get it fully coated, where there's little bitty gaps. This mirror has some, you can tell more, let's go right here, how it's warped. Those should be straight lines in my blinds that I'm kind of showing you there, but they're not. It's a very warped situation. This is the best one of all the mirrors. For this one doesn't really have any issues. Look at that. There's straight lines. This is legit. So, but the problem is this does have that smudging weird fingerprint situation and the tiny micro bubbles. So this one was a win except for the micro bubbles and the weird smudge. And again, I'm guessing that's just my fingerprints being on it. So it looks nice. You really can't, this one turned out lovely, really. But these are the 3 that I got around to, I think, towards the end, because interesting things happen where there's a lot of distortion in the mirror. You can see that there is a very big distortion. It almost comes down to like a V if you look at it. Or it almost looks like it goes up in the center like a fisheye. But you can see that that is not normal. This also has the smudging situation with micro bubbles. But the worst part is just that, you can see that that is not a normal mirror. And when you look into it, it makes your face look like tiny in the middle and it goes out to the side. Not traditionally what you want to see in a mirror. You don't need a mirror anyway, you're beautiful. But still, it's good to know if you got some like spinach in your teeth. I think I might have to leave the lip as it is and just sand the top and just the very edge. Put my tape again where it was, and then top coat and just make sure to coat over the side again. Because as a camera newbie, didn't realize that the time was up and that I was just talking and not recording. So I did pull the tape off these last two, but I really wanted to show you two parts that I know that the heat gun definitely affected. I think it affected overall warming the resin and causing it to cure faster and making it thick and really difficult to work with. That absolutely was an issue. However, then when I was trying to pop the bubbles with the heat gun, I put it too close and too long, and this is what happened. So right here, if you can see, that's a little bit different. The rest of it's fairly smooth, and there's the smudges that they all have in the little bubbles. But there's this different kind of pattern here, and you can see it really well right there. And that is where I applied the heat gun a little bit too long and a little bit too close. This item has it, so this one has it right here as well. I don't know if you can tell, it's just slightly different. It's a very complex waviness to it versus this is just warped smoothly in general, and this is like very warped. Those are the two places on these that I left the heat gun on, and I saw it as it happened immediately. I was like, oh my gosh, what is that doing? Instead of sort of like making the resin more viscous and just kind of pushing over the edges, it immediately like made that pattern and hardened up. It was like Frozen when she's like, wha-cha! It was like Frozen, and I was like, what? It was unfortunate, but that's what this is about. We're learning. Next steps, I'm going to resand the surfaces, doing 80, 180, 220, 400, and 800. So the exact same process I did before. I'm gonna hit the flat surface and just the beveled edge. I'm not gonna go down the side because I think it's gonna be okay if I retape and let the top coat come over. I'm gonna mix slightly more than 2 ounces just to make sure that I'm at the safe minimum mix. I will not use the heat gun until I have poured it on each project. I have used the spatula to kind of spread it out, make sure that it's over all of the sides, and then at that point, once I'm done with all of them doing that, I will then go over with the heat gun and pop the bubbles. I think in a way it also allows the resin time to naturally vent some of those bubbles themselves, and also it lets the bubbles get closer to the surface because the heat gun can only really penetrate so far. I do think this is recoverable. If you could just throw up some just with me, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. We got this. I know that this will be super clear if I do it correctly. I gotta work on my, my technique. Stay tuned for round 2 of top coating. Are you ready? I bet you are, because I am. Round 2, top coat. Feeling way better about it. Without further ado, we erased all of those mistakes, and I still think made some new ones, or maybe didn't fix some of the issues, but this is where we're at. I am much, much happier with the top coat. You can see there's no distortion in the mirror. You can see where there's a little bit by the beveled edge, but in general, the mirrors all lost that distortion that they had before. Now there's still the little micro bubbles that were in it before, they're in it to win it, we started. But the big thing, the only problem that we have left is that haze. Not the little micro bubbles all in here, those were already there, but the little haze that's, you can almost see on this side here, there's not so much of a haze, but from here up, it's kind of grayer and hazy. Now, when you look into the mirror itself and you see reflection, strangely enough, it's not really that noticeable. It's not an issue, so I will still be giving these as gifts, but this is not anything that I would try to sell. Edges, I also took more care to make sure that, now they're not perfect, because, you know, I'm not perfect, but I took more care to make sure that the resin flowed all the way over the sides. I did not have any problem taking the tape off the second time either, so that process went exactly the same. That's why I didn't record it. This fog. The fog was present in the first one. Again, you can see minimal distortion with the lines. However, there's that fog. I don't know what it is. Now, I do believe the issue with this fog, I think it's in the same place, in the same way that it was before. I think the issue is I did not sand down far enough or deep enough into that top coat to get rid of the fog that was there originally. This one's almost perfect. You can see there's just a little bit of fog right here. Oh, missed a little tape there. That's all good, I can get that off later. With the exception of the haze, these turned out great. All those variables, you know, that we avoided or that I avoided the second time, they really paid off. It's just the haze. I don't believe, unless there was a mirror here, that you would even notice that a haze like this was going on. But if you've experienced this in any of your projects, please, please let me know what I can do to avoid it. So all in all, I would definitely call this project a success. Heavy on learning with like a hint of fail. Just in the foggy situation that I couldn't resolve. I do have a plan to do this project again, and I have a different plan on how I want to execute it, but we'll do that a different day. And I loved this for my first project. I do think working with mirrors may have been an advanced move because it turned out a little more difficult, because on the artistic beautiful side, you can kind of get away with a little bit more. Little micro bubbles, not an issue. You can still see the beauty of the design. It shows through, and this part is so much fun. This is where you can get creative and just do whatever it is that you want. The technical side, which is the mirror side, that's a little bit trickier. The top coat was trickier, but I do feel like I kind of overcame it and figured it out. I just do think it was a success, with the exception of badoop, the weird little fog. I can't wait to see if you also make these or if you are tackling other projects. Love to hear about it in the comments below. Also would love to hear about what you think I should tackle next. Whether I do the combs with the proper resin that won't, you know, less than desirable in a comb, right? Or I have the alphabet mold where I can make keychains and we can, I mean, do anything with that. Then I also have the phone grip molds. And I have this guy. It's a sweet little homemade sign that I have. I did break it on accident. This right here, I glued it back together. I got hips, they don't lie, and they also knock things off of tables, which is exactly what happened with this, but he's glued back together, but I thought it'd be really cool if I did a resin pour over it and maybe do alcohol ink right on top, or maybe I'll do the alcohol ink before the pour. I don't know, but it's exciting, so let me know if there's one that just sparks your fancy and you want to see that next. I'm down, so just throw a message down in the comments and we'll get it going. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the next project. Like I said, I know that this didn't go perfectly, but I had a blast during every step. I take it back. There was one part that I was like, oh, Steph, what are you doing? Which was top coat, you know, sanding this bad boy. It popped out of my hand, and then when I set it back down, I sanded the pretty side. So not only did I top coated this side, I have to go back and now top coat this again. When that happened, I was like, no, I'm already not good at top coating. And now that I've touched it with apparently my turbo greasy fingers, who knew, I think I'm gonna have to sand it down again just so that I don't have that fog happen on this side as I keep touching it. I might as well just like rub it up. No, that was too much, I'm sorry. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you learned from my mistakes, and I hope you had a good time watching the whole process. I hope to see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me grow this channel, as well as click the bell so you don't miss any amazing educational information so that I can show you what not to do. And also we can have a lot of fun working with resin. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. That's what I love, is you can just get crazy with it. Why is my hair stuck on my shirt? Oh, technical difficulty. Oh no. Oh, got it. This fog. It's like The Mist, Stephen King, that movie, and like the fog comes in and just jacks everything up. That's exactly what's happening. That's a perfect representation of this situation. Stephen King's The Mist, hanging out right up here. This is the happy town before the mist. This is post-mist. It's bad. It's bad news. It's a good movie though. You should check it out. I love Stephen King. Especially the Dark Tower series. Changed me. Cried the whole last part of the book. Pretty cool when you see through it and look at the background. Ooh, why am I so entertained by little things? I don't know. Can you see all the makeup that fell on my shirt? I think you can. Yeah. Oh, you totally can. Oh no. Was that there the whole time? Nothing I can do about it now. Okay. Please stop trying to talk to me. This weird whir. That's how I would describe it. If this made a noise, it would be whir, because it's less than desirable. Let's just say that. That's what it is. Way better about top coating after round 2. Round 1, it felt like just a big experiment where I didn't even realize I was part of the experiment. What is that called? There's something that's called that. I don't know what that is. All right, it's reveal day. I don't know why I'm saying that, and I'm continuing to sing, so I'll stop. By the hair of my chinny chin chin. And if there are any hairs down here, just don't tell me. My heat gun and these little mirrors were like best friends. And it doesn't work out sometimes with heat guns and resins. Third issue. What was the third issue? Oh, I'm getting old. I can't remember anything anymore. Peace. No, that's not professional. Sayonara. No, also not good.